Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the most magical podcast in the Midwest, the Magic in the Midwest podcast, starring USA Today best-selling author J.B. Michaels and his more successful wife, Ashley Michaels. And now, your hosts. Well, thanks a lot, announcer. Yes, today is the 57th episode of the Magic in the Midwest podcast.
Wow.
57.
It's a lot.
It is.
It's a lot of magical content for you to enjoy.
It is a lot of magical content. Speaking of magical content, you could get more magical content on magicinthemidwestpodcast.bandcamp.com, but we are probably going to have some other exciting announcements as well. Given recent updates to other podcast platforms, so more news on that soon. We have to get on that.
We do. Noted.
This week. We were on a vacay, so, we
Physically and mentally.
Yes. And reality is definitely not as fun.
It isn't.
Yes.
For this podcast.
Right. Okay. So, yes, Magic in the Midwest podcast number 57. Magic in the Midwest podcast.bandcamp.com. You guys, you could easily just, support the podcast for $3 a month. You won't even see it leave. It's just set it and forget it. Get access to a bunch of great content. All right, that is not available on all the other platforms. This is exclusive content.
Yeah, and JB and I kind of go head-to-head with attraction smackdowns and ranking lists of different things, and they're usually recorded after the main podcast, so we're a little bit more heated, and it's,
ready to be done. Looking at each other. Yeah, that's for sure. No, never. But anyway, so guys, we are very excited to talk to you today about Universal. Oh wait, we got some more housekeeping. You're right. Sorry.
Also, just wanted to, if you follow us on Instagram, I have updated our link. I have finally joined, this decade and did like a link tree so that I don't have to keep changing the link in our bio. But you can go there and check out the different things. It's a direct link to our Bandcamp website and a few other things that you can check out. But I also just wanted to mention Emily. She is a vacation planner that we met through the podcast. She is super awesome. So if you're thinking of booking a trip and would like some help, she is a great resource, very knowledgeable about the parks, and she specializes in Disney and Universal, but she can book all travel, including cruises, which I know are they?
No.
Not yet. Okay.
Not Disney.
Not yet. Okay. Yeah. And all-inclusive resorts, and it comes at no cost to you, so that's something to think about. And she can help you with all the things that go along with planning a vacation, like dining and fast passes, and will also monitor for savings, airport transfers, and can create customized itineraries for you and your family. And if you contact her, she'll give you a no-obligation quote, not a coat. She probably won't give you a coat.
Probably won't give you a coat,
but
no.
Maybe.
It's possible. She is from the Midwest.
I can't say it won't happen for sure.
Where people need coats.
Okay. So you can contact her via email if you need a quote or a coat. At Emily at magicalmousetravel.com. She is very sweet, very nice, and you should, contact her if you're looking to book a trip.
Yes. So
or need a coat.
Or need a coat. Yes, exactly. So today we're headed back to Universal Studios, or I should say Universal Studios, or Universal Orlando Resort, technically, is what it's technically called now. But we also want to talk about, we talked about Islands of Adventure. We went in depth into Islands of Adventure. And now we're actually going to go to the original park and talk about that. And first we're going to give you a little bit of background. I was there when it first opened. And, so I kind of want to go back and talk about the early days of Universal Studios. So the original property was called Universal Studios Florida. It was only one theme park. And it was only one theme park for about a decade, and then they started building Islands of Adventure, or they opened Islands of Adventure, like I think in 99. But anyway, I believe. But anyway, Universal Studios Florida opened on June 7th of 1990, and it was marketed as Ride the Movies. Okay, right. Ride the Movies. Now, you got to remember, in 1990, there was no Netflix, right? There was no Disney Plus. There was no streaming service. People still rented videotapes from video stores like Blockbuster or your local video stop or Kenny Peterson's video rental shop in West Chicago, Illinois.
My uncle.
Yes. So
we apparently owned a video store.
So yeah,
I was not aware of this until a couple of years ago. 1990. Also, people still looked each other in the eye when they were speaking.
Right. Right.
It was a different time.
Very different time. You were a mere 4 years old. I was a mere. I'm not going to say because people might judge us. No, I'm kidding.
9.
I was 9. Yeah. Actually, I was still 8 when it opened.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, so, Universal Studios Florida. I'll be honest, you guys. When I was 8, I was super pumped about this. Like, very excited. I remember the commercials for Universal Studios Florida and just being blown away. And just, for me, that whole concept, that whole marketing of Ride the Movies was just so perfect for me because my family, we're movie lovers. Like, my grandparents literally have a huge library of old classic Golden Age of Hollywood films that they loved as a kid. So, like, movie going and the movie tradition was very strong in my house. So when you marketed something, Ride the Movies, it was really big for me. I remember being very excited about that.
Yeah.
And it was just, something. I mean, another Disney, of course, was huge in my house, obviously, Disney World. But then to have another park, a new place, at, Universal Studios, especially Universal Studios being responsible for some of my favorite properties, like Back to the Future as a kid, and King Kong, and Jaws. So in a big, and there's a through line there, a big director was brought on to help guide the opening of the park and the attractions, and that would be Hollywood director of Jaws, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, Steven Spielberg. Yes. So, he was also like a household name, and E.T. and everything. So it was such a big deal. I remember just being really excited about it, and my grandparents were like, "Hey, let's go. Let's definitely go to Universal Studios, for a day, on our next Disney trip." Yeah. So, and I remember just being very, very pumped about it. And we stayed at a Hampton Inn across International Drive, which was it was a big tower. No, sorry, it wasn't a Hampton Inn. It was a Howard Johnson, but it was a huge tower. Howard Johnson, like it was a bigger Howard Johnson. I think has since downsized a lot, but. Yeah, I remember just being very excited, being right, then even going into the parking lot. The parking garage itself had different icons of the park, like for different sections. So you had King Kong level, the Jaws level, Back to the Future level, blah, blah, blah. I remember getting off the airplane and seeing posters for Ride the Movies, and it was Doc Brown and Marty McFly, and the DeLorean, and it was like Universal Studios Florida, Ride the Movies, and it was that. I mean, that was.
How could you not be excited about
that? Yeah. I mean, it was a big deal. So I just remember really honing in on that and just saying, this is going to be special. This is going to be great. So, So yeah, anyway. So that was my first impressions of Universal Studios Florida. We'll talk about what happens when we go in. But what was your first impressions of Universal Studios, the park, when you went the first time?
So I was 16 the first time I went to Universal, and at that point I had been to Disney one time, and my trip to Disney was when I was 8, so I should remember a lot more from that trip. But you know how it is. You know, you get older, and there's really just like, there are certain things I remember, basically just feelings and a few of the rides and that sort of thing. Sorry, there's a lot of noise happening upstairs. So at that point, my main reference outside of Disney was like doing things like, you know, Six Flags. So when I walked into Universal, I was like, wow, this is really nice.
Right.
And we walked into Islands, and the first thing I saw was the whole coaster.
Yes.
And I was sort of taken with that. I loved the theming. I loved that it seemed, you know, I know Six Flags are kind of different everywhere, but the one by us isn't the cleanest all the time, and you know what I mean. It's a different level of theme park.
Left to be desired, yes.
So I just remember thinking, like, this is really cool. This is somewhere I would want to come back.
Yeah.
I just remember we had a great time. We're at a great age to go. I was there with my softball team. We had traveled to Florida for a tournament, and we lost. So we went to Universal.
So did you go to Studios, or did you only go to Islands?
We went to both.
Okay.
We got a ticket for both.
Okay.
But, you know, to be honest, my main memories from the trip are
Islands. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I remember the most.
Well, there's a reason for that, probably. Well, yeah, exactly.
So, but I just, you know, I can't remember, you know, because at that age, you know, we were just sort of running around. And I swear this happened. We went up to this little kiosk, kind of like the fast passes that you used to get at Disney at those kiosks, and we got a reserved time to come back to the Hulk. I remember that, and I'm not making that up. I remember that they did that.
Yeah.
And so we came back. It was like 3 hours later.
Yeah.
But we came back and got right on the ride.
Cool.
So we must have paid for some extra thing or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
But we had a great time, and I remember thinking, I want to come back here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So now Universal Studios Florida, like, that was the original thing. And then, of course, when Isles of Adventure opened, it changed to Universal Orlando. Eventually, it would change. So basically, you know, the idea was, what are the biggest, most popular things that Universal Studios has, and how can we transfer that into a theme park? Now, Universal Studios in California had already had a tram tour that was there for years, right? Mm-hmm. So Universal Studios California sort of already kind of dipped its toes sort of into a theme park type situation with the tram tour. You know, there was a King Kong element to it, a Jaws element to it. You know, so basically they had to think about, okay, well, what will people want to do? Well, they opened the park. Actually, I think, you know, I don't think Back to the Future, the ride, opened until like a little bit later, like that, maybe a year after it opened. You know, so I have to kind of see. Let's see. Yeah, it opened on May of 1991. So it took about a year for it to open. So I went summer of 91 when I first went to Universal Studios Orlando. And so that's really, Universal Studios Florida. So that's what they used to call it. And the big attractions, Ash, and I've got a mug that literally says on it, copyright 1989, Universal Studios Florida.
Yeah.
And it says copyright 1989 because obviously this was, the marketing was being ramped up, you know, as they were building the park. And, you know, what I love about it is that this is squarely 20th century, you know, Universal Studios. It's the 20th century, and it's everything about it is, you got to remember that, like, in 1990, the people that would be going would know all of these franchises really, really well. And now that's not the case, right? I mean, this is just not the case anymore. But you've got King Kong, which was featured on the marketing for it. I also had a notebook that had like I had a little sketch pad notebook that had a raised like 3D lenticular cover on it with the same type of stuff with Universal Studios sort of. The only thing that's missing on here is E.T.
That's interesting
weird.
That it's not on there.
Yeah, E.T.'s not on here. But we have King Kong, which was called Kongfrontation when it first opened. We have Back to the Future, Jaws, The Bates Motel. Okay, and that's not the newer version. That's like the old Psycho, version. What's really neat about the Bates Motel thing is that, oddly enough, it was just built. And it was they just built the motel. And they left it on its own in this like corner of the park.
That's so funny.
So it was just like this creepy, like,
brilliant.
There it is.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what's that? Okay, it's an iconic Universal property.
Yeah. Side note, guys, if you
built.
have not watched Bates Motel,
The show,
do it.
solid show, really good show. If you want thrills and chills, really,
Yes.
really good show.
So very well done. Such a good show.
Yes. And then you have the tram from Earthquake, which was the very first attraction.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this was Earthquake, where everybody gets on a tram and, everything falls apart. And it was based on the Charlton Heston movie of the 1970s, which, of course, now if you did that, it's weird. It's like Universal has such a different philosophy based on not like the land that they have, I guess, right? They didn't have a lot of land.
Yeah.
So they had to kind of swap things out, I guess, more.
Which they've done.
Which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But so you had Earthquake from the 70s, which was a big budget movie in the 70s for Universal, but it wasn't necessarily like a monster box office success. Like, I think it made its money back and made a little money.
I'm embarrassed, but I don't know what I've
Right,
never...
you don't even know what it is. Right, it was just in the 70s, Hollywood went on this disaster movie binge. Like, they just made disaster movies after disaster movies, like, constantly. It was like The Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure, Earthquake, like The Swarm. They had this one with Michael Caine called The Swarm, where it's just killer bees, like, swarmed the world. I know, it's crazy. And then you had Woody Woodpecker, because they had a little kid section with the Woody Woodpecker roller coaster. And they had, of course, in this kid section, what is still there today, and one of the only attractions still left from the beginning of the theme park, E.T. The Adventure.
I can't believe it's not on the mug.
It's not on the mug. E.T. The Adventure Continues is still at the park.
I've still never been on it.
It's the only thing that is still at the park.
Can I see this?
Yeah. So we're looking at the mug with the original IP on it.
I've still never been on that ride.
E.T.?
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta go. We gotta go on it. I love it. I love it.
I was hoping I could find a little ET thing, but
No.
nope.
No. So, okay. So when I first went to Universal Studios in summer of 1991, I was most excited. I think I've talked about this before, but I was most excited about Kong. It was down that day. It was not working that day.
Right?
And Jaws wasn't working either. So Jaws wasn't even open yet either.
Check, guys.
So a couple huge rides that they were marketing were not even available. But what was available was the Back to the Future the ride.
Okay.
And my family, I remember we went on that, and we were all blown away. Like, do you remember going on it?
I was going to say, I wonder if I went on it. Would it have been there when I was 16?
Yeah.
Okay, then I think I did.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I'm assuming we did. I
Well,
don't really...
It was the first, right. It was the first time, not only is it a beloved film franchise, but it was also, it was actually before the sequels came out. So it was like right
okay.
around the same
Right.
time the sequels were hitting, the ride was hitting as well. So we went on the ride and we were blown away. And it was basically just this huge like OmniMax screen, and you got it. It was a simulator, but it was the first like simulator of its kind, where it was this huge screen and you were in the DeLorean tracing Biff through time, which was awesome. I mean, we were blown away. So that
Maybe
saved.
not, though. That doesn't sound familiar to me. So maybe I didn't do it.
Maybe. So it saved that trip. I think it saved that it was like, okay, well, that was definitely worth it. Like, that was great.
Right.
Going on Back to the Future. So that was something that really kind of redeemed the day, considering that both, Kong and Jaws weren't even working. But then they had this Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which took you through all of Alfred Hitchcock's famous movies, and it showed you the shower scene. It did this whole demonstration show, shot for shot, on how they filmed the shower scene.
And your mom didn't really get to watch
She didn't get
that.
to watch it because I was scared out of my mind. Yes, I was very, very creeped
Well,
out.
I mean, that's understandable. You were 8.
I was little.
I'm sure she was disappointed,
I was
though.
little. Yeah.
Which we're, getting paid back for now.
Right.
Because
Right.
our son is afraid of things.
Afraid of things as well. Yes.
He went through a phase where he wasn't.
And
When
now
he was
is
younger, and now he's kind of
Right. So yeah, so it's a crazy, so that was cool, and then of course E.T. was awesome as well. And the cool thing about E.T. was what you told them. You could still do this today. You would tell them your name. They put it on a card. You've got your passport, and then E.T. would say your name at the end of the ride.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which was cool.
Yeah.
So that was kind of neat for, the 90s, early 90s. But yeah, so I mean, it was a really fun park. And it was definitely, it had a clear focus. You know what I mean? It was ride the movies. And
Yeah.
that's what you did, right? You had these huge properties, and you went for it, and you just had fun, and you did it, and it was really, I just have fond memories of it. And I returned again in 1997, and I finally got to go on Kong, which was totally worth it. It was like
It's a long wait.
full-size Kong. Yeah, so it
7
was...
years.
Well, it's six.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 6 years, but it was a long time.
Yeah.
So I, from 9 years old to, to what, 16? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. What am I, is my math wrong? 15? 14?
If you're adding 6
Yeah.
to 9, it would be 50.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you're the
I'm
accountant.
an accountant. I can
You're
add
the accountant.
9
I
plus
can't add. Anyway, she was
get
scared
fired.
for a few seconds. Her
No.
face looked. She
You know what,
panicked a little
though?
bit.
I wasn't paying attention when you...
Oh.
I was confused because when you were talking about being 8 and seeing the thing, I didn't realize that you were 9 when you went. For some reason, I was just thinking 8, which is when you saw the commercial. So
Yeah.
I was like, wait, that's not right. And then you said you were 9 when you went. So that's
Yes.
why I panicked.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
So, all right. So,
My bosses listen to this podcast.
right.
So I can add
I
9.
hope. I don't know, guys. I don't know. All right. So,
Usually.
yes, usually. And we went on Earthquake as well. That was really cool. Earthquake was it was a lot of cool practical effects. And they kind of went in and they showed you how they did certain things and certain special effects, which was cool. All right. So now So over the years, Universal Studios Florida has changed a lot. And I'm just going to say it. It's like the quality of the park as it stands today does not hold a candle to the quality of the park in the past. Like I even think the first few years of Florida were awesome. I mean, then we got to go on Jaws, and that was really fun. And I mean, it was just, it really, like, just these beloved film franchises of my childhood. I get it. I understand that. I don't know, Ash. Like, part of me, this is where my struggle is. Like, do you think Universal's strategy is good? Like, you can't just rely on the old stuff all the time? You gotta refresh it?
I feel like it's hard to say. It's one of those things where I think it's a little bit of both. I think that, in one way, the way they used to do it and kind of keeping things around and nostalgia, like, I would love if the Jaws ride was still there and Back to the Future and the original Kong ride. I think that would be ideal. But, without taking some of those away, we wouldn't have Harry Potter. We wouldn't have Mummy.
Revenge of the Mummy.
Now, there have been some replacements that aren't as good, like Fast Furious. I've never been on it.
We'll get
no one's here. So, I mean, the nature of their land they have is that they can't really keep adding new things without taking other things away.
Yeah.
So, I think to keep things fresh, keep people wanting to come back, they have to, keep updating things and adding new things. And to do that, you have to take something away. And what's interesting about that, though, is that I think right now, what's very popular right now is, like, you see all these revamped things. Like, for instance, like the new Mighty Ducks show.
Right.
Like, everyone is, like, longing for that. It's
big.
like, that's like a big thing right now. So I think specifically for people our age, I think a lot of us would like to see some of the stuff that's been taken away, but we also appreciate the things that they've added. So it's hard to answer that question.
I think originally Universal Studios Florida was in a crunch, right? They had only a certain set amount of land. Well, since the Comcast merger, they just bought it. I mean, Comcast just bought crap load of more land, and they're building a whole new theme park, like a whole other theme park. So we're getting Epic Universe,
right?
So I think had Epic Universe had the land they bought was there from the beginning of their Universal's foray into theme parks in Florida, maybe those rides would be saved or revamped or kept.
Yeah.
For nostalgia's sake. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I am very grateful that E.T. is still there. Like,
well, isn't it like it has to be? Didn't he?
Spielberg basically says,
"You better not.
As long as I am breathing,
this better be here.
This is in the park." And I think he makes a really good point, because Steven Spielberg really was responsible for saving Universal Studios. Like, Universal Studios in the 70s.
He's also responsible for saving our souls.
Right. Yes, in many ways.
Him and John Williams.
Yes. And his favorite movie is It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, really?
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Totally makes sense. So you have, like, you've got Spielberg, who they brought in to help guide them in the beginning. And I think he basically said to them, because they were chopping down all these other rides.
Yeah.
Took away Jaws, he was like, do not get rid of E.T. You cannot get rid of E.T.
I'm glad.
And he still has, he still has a lot of sway, right? He's one of the most powerful men in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Period. So, I'm grateful for that. I think it's a great ride, and it should stay. It should stay. And it's also a practical ride. It does not rely on, like, a screen. You know what I mean? It does not rely on, the illusion of something actually happening. Things are actually happening,
Yes.
So,
yes, we've talked about that in other podcasts, too.
Right.
One thing I want to add, too, about, I think it happens more with Universal, but it happens with Disney, too, is the nature of getting rid of something to replace it with something else is that it almost always affects theming. Because you're kind of like, okay, where can we put this? Well, we can put it here, even though it wasn't in the original plan. So now you're looking at a park where it's like, ride the movies. Okay, well, let's replace this with this. And another example of that is, like, do I love Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land? Yeah. Does it super fit with the theme of Hollywood Studios? I don't really think it does exactly.
I mean, I think it
kind of does.
I think it does.
I don't want those things not to be there.
Right.
But you have this sort of, like, backlot, like, old Hollywood type of situation, and then, like, these two ultra-themed lands. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, when you add things on, it's not a perfect fit. That's just the nature of how it goes.
Right. So, So we have, yeah, I mean, so Universal, like we're talking about, right? In order for them to stay relevant, they feel like, in the older days, they felt like, well, we have to revamp. We only have a limited amount of space. Right. So we got to tear things down and we got to revamp things. We want people to keep coming
back. We want to be able to announce new things. So that's what we have to do.
For a long time, and I think it is still their philosophy, is they want to have a new ride every summer. Like, that's what they want.
Something's got to go.
Or they add things like Velocicoaster, which sort of the track is all over the damn place.
Jammed in the middle of two, which is what I'm talking about.
Right,
okay, we're going to add this thing. It doesn't really belong here, but this is where it can fit.
Like, it's in Jurassic Park.
Kind of.
But it also stretches to the bridge at Hogwarts, like, by Hogsmeade. So it's like this weird...
I mean, same thing you see happening in Disney. The sight lines, the Tangled Tower that people talk about, the Skyliner. Like, when you start adding a bunch of things, which... in one way add value, it's also gonna take away things in a way.
Right.
And some people don't care about that at all. They just want more.
Yeah.
And some people do care about that.
Yeah. So we're we are so that's basically their strategy. I heard the Velocicoaster was just people have ridden it because it was a pass holder preview.
Hopefully there wasn't any.
And it's supposed to be fantastic.
Oh, so now are people raving like they're about Hagrid's or not quite?
I don't know. I have to read this stuff.
I feel like what I've read is people saying that it's it's really fun and great. They're not like, whoa, it's amazing. I think it's a great addition. It's
a coaster,
an intense coaster, and super fun, and that's great. That's great. I'm excited. I'm excited to ride it.
Yes, me too. So yes, that should be fun. And that, again, that's in Isles of Adventure. But so now in studios, so you had those original IPs. So let's get back to it.
Yeah.
So I feel like they've had to switch over things a lot. And then so now in the park, so originally you had King Kong, Hitchcock Presents, which was a cool studio, like a whole tour behind the scenes of Alfred Hitchcock, Jaws, Earthquake, Woody Woodpecker, E.T. They had a Waterworld stunt show originally.
Based off of
yes.
the movie?
Yes.
Waterworld?
Yeah, Waterworld.
Interesting.
I remember seeing they had it in the lagoon. Like they had a whole stunt show dedicated to Waterworld.
Oh.
Isn't that cool?
It kind of is.
Yeah. One of the original things they had was the horror makeup show. It's still there.
It's still there.
And it was...
It's an interesting show.
Well, I felt like Universal Studios was the king of horror.
And that belongs.
And that's totally
not
belongs.
You're not going to see at Disney. I love that they do that.
Right. They did add... Now, this is where it starts to get into the weeds a little bit. So they added Terminator 2 3D into Universal Studios, Florida, which was great.
Right.
Universal, but T2 3D was not a Universal property. Terminator was not a Universal property. So it's one of those. So this is where Universal starts to like license things out a little bit. So a lot of the things they have in their parks, they don't necessarily own from original Universal properties.
Right. And now, with the Marvel situation, it's kind of strange.
It is kind of strange.
You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
A question real quick. What did the Simpsons ride replace? Was that Back to the Future?
So the Simpsons ride, yes, was
Why?
Back to the Future.
I mean,
I know.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, but even if you're someone that really likes The Simpsons, okay, if you like that show, would you rather ride a ride that's based off of, like, one of the most basically... I mean, Back to the Future is one of those films that's studied in film courses in college because it's this great film. Right. Would you rather ride a ride that's based on that or based on some...
Right.
show
so
that I don't love.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, I mean, to me, it's like it's a TV show. Why would you? It just doesn't really make sense. You can definitely tell it's like, okay, let's try and do something. I mean, I guess it was their most successful, show at one point. But.
Yes. So they did also have Nickelodeon Studios.
Right.
Over at Universal Studios Florida, and they also had Hanna-Barbera, like this, like Yogi Bear and Flintstones and all those like characters in this one big. I think it's where Despicable Me Minion Mayhem is now. So they had that. I think eventually that would shift to Jimmy Neutron, which was another Nickelodeon property. So, and then of course a big part of the early days of Universal Studios, they started doing this Fright Fest thing. I think they call it Fright Fest. I think it was just called like something very generic.
I think that's
like that.
Fright Fest is.
Well, I know it's Six Flags, but there was like a generic name,
something like it,
before they came up with Horror Nights. Fright Nights. That's it. Yeah, Universal Fright Nights.
Hey, look at me!
Oh my gosh, you're so amazing.
I totally got it.
You are like amazing. So Universal's Fright Nights, which I think was that for a couple of years, and then it shifted to Universal Halloween Horror Nights.
Right.
And holy cow, now Universal's Halloween Horror Nights is the whole, I'm not kidding, I am convinced this is the whole reason Universal Studios Florida still exists.
Nothing there. I don't understand. I mean, the Mummy's there, and
Diagon Alley. All right. Okay. So
I think of that as separate, but yes.
Yes. Okay. So here we go, Ash. So now today, this is what you could go on.
And I'm going to say Who Cares or I Care as you name them.
Right. Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
Ready. Okay, so here is what you have now at Universal Studios as far as attractions. Okay? You've got Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts.
Yeah, I mean neutral, but it's...
Neutral. Okay, good. Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem.
I've never been on it, but I like Minions and I like Despicable Me, so fine.
Okay. And another thing they did have in the early days of Universal Studios Florida was a Beetlejuice show.
What?
Yeah, they had a cool Beetlejuice show.
Around? Everyone loves Beetlejuice.
And they had a Ghostbusters attraction.
Michael Keaton.
Yeah, Beetlejuice, Michael Keaton, and they had a Ghostbusters one too, which was not owned by Universal but licensed. So interesting.
It's a flip, guys.
So yeah,
and gals.
Yeah, I know, it was really great. Right? That sounds really good. What a great lineup. So Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem, the Hogwarts Express, which they count as a ride and attraction. No. I'm looking at Universal's website right now. Revenge of the Mummy.
Yeah, I mean,
a big time.
Amazing.
Yay. Yes. Yeah. Love it. I don't like that it replaced Confrontation.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But it's so
well
good.
Done, right?
It's a really well done one. And those movies are fun. Yes, we watched the original Mummy not that long ago.
Now, the movie is not like the most amazing movie ever, but he is great. The acting is good, and it's
Brendan
funny.
Fraser,
and, fun. Funny movie. Fun movie. Okay, go ahead.
And then you've got E.T. Adventure.
Okay, I'm assuming that's a pass. Yes.
Which, love it. Love it. Never get rid of it. This is the most made fun of ride attraction that people just absolutely hate. It's universally panned. Get it? Universally panned. Fast and Furious Supercharged.
I've never done it, but I've seen videos of it. It looks horrendous.
People don't know what the hell it is. Like, you just... Okay, so, all right, to give you some context, this used to be Earthquake, okay? So you're on the tram type of thing.
Yeah.
It used to be Earthquake. Then it changed to Disaster. Then they changed from Earthquake to this, like, generic
disaster. Okay. Which it stayed a disaster.
Right. So it was The Rock was like involved. He was like part of the pre-show. Involved. He was involved as part of the pre-show, guys. Yeah, disaster. So you had The Rock with Disaster.
Okay.
And then after Disaster, it shifted to Fast and Furious Supercharged. And everybody just shakes their heads.
I mean, I know, but I think we watched something that was talking about how the creative team wanted to do something different, and basically the finance people, the budget was like, nope. So they were kind of stuck. Like, I don't think that they thought that this was a great idea. I think they knew it sucked.
They wanted to capitalize on the ultra successful and we love the Fast and Furious film.
How can you not?
It's so
good.
It's so cheesy and ridiculous, and I'm glad it exists.
Me too.
So yes. So then that's an attraction they have now, which I would have taken Charlton Heston and Earthquake over this any day. Okay.
Our friends call it
slow
and disappointing.
Disappointing. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Then we have Hogwarts Express King's Cross Station. That's not. I'm legitimately. This is the on the list of rides and attractions.
Just like how Volcano Bay is the theme park. No and no.
Right.
Go on.
And then to me, there's a couple really. There's a lot.
I want to say one side thing real quick to all you Harry Potter fans out there that are like choking and gasping that I said it. I get it. If you're
she's a Slith,
a huge
Slith
Potterhead,
Slith.
Will you shut up? I'm trying to say something. I totally get why you would want to have this experience of riding the train between the two parks. I get it. For me, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. I'm not like ultra Harry Potter. I don't need to wait in line or do the train thing. That's if we did it and it came up, I would be cool with it.
Right.
But it's not something that I need to do. We all have our things.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I don't think it's an attraction.
Right. All right, so, and then we have Hollywood's Rip Ride Rocket.
Which I've never been able to do because JB is
You could do it.
No, I know. But, he looks at it and tells me how much he hates it when he looks at it. And he goes on. And even though there's 5-minute waits, he won't do it, and I don't want to do it alone.
Guys, I'll be honest with you.
It's just very uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. It makes zero sense to be Universal Studios.
I think it's
Florida.
cool to pick your own music, kind of.
Yeah, but there's no point to it. It's just let's throw a coaster in the park and have the track go everywhere.
Yeah, it does go everywhere.
And it's just so... I really dislike this.
I'll probably only go on it one time, but I have to try it.
I really dislike it.
Even like I want to do Fast and Furious. I want to experience it one time to try it.
I could not dislike a ride more, except for maybe Men in Black Alien Attack. So Universal Studios has just some glaring problems that just need to go. They need to figure this out. But because of they're building a new theme park, so they're not going to worry about it too much, and because Halloween Horror Nights keeps the theme park in the black every year. And then you've got Kang and Kodo's Twirl and Hurl. So if you don't know who Kang and Kodo are, they're a Disney-owned Simpsons characters, which is so funny. They're the two aliens from all of the Halloween specials of Simpsons. Okay, so they're the aliens. It's just like a Dumbo type of thing, except you can spin your own thing like really fast. So it's teacups plus Dumbo.
Ooh.
Then you have in Universal Studios Florida, and this attraction takes up a giant footprint as well. They could do so much with the building. It's huge, and they could do so much with this that would be so much better than Men in Black Alien Attack.
You guys, I know the super competitive people that like to beat the
They're hardcore, yes.
Or kids a lot of times love, rides like this because you're shooting at things. This, I'm just going to say what I really think, is the dumbest ride I have ever been a part of. I was on there and I was shocked. I thought that maybe some of it had been torn down and we were still able to get on it. It's like an empty warehouse, basically, where everything you're shooting is like 17 miles away, and it probably took $3 to put it together. I mean, I was like, this is... You compare shooting games, okay? Look at Toy Story Mania, look at Buzz Lightyear...
Space Ranger Spin.
Those are, like... involved, you can see what you're shooting, they're flushed out attractions. Men in Black, I'm sorry to all of you that like it.
A lot of people love it. I think we're in the minority, to be honest.
What do you like about it?
People really love it.
It's an empty warehouse. It's horrible. And I love Men in Black. It's such a fun movie. I like the movies. Yeah. I think this ride is a big waste of space.
Yeah. And Men in Black was a big hit. at a time when Will Smith was like at the top of his powers.
You could do such a cool ride with that franchise too.
That's not this. Yes.
Yeah.
In Men in Black,
Not a ride through an empty warehouse.
like I thought Men in Black 3 was really good. The one where it's about Tommy Lee Jones's character. I really like that one.
Like, I mean, what do you like about it? You get in there, there's like not a lot to shoot at.
It's aliens that you shoot at,
But
and you get a
they're
score.
like not even around.
But there are people that, we might get toasted on this one, but we'll see.
That's fine.
We'll see.
I'm not afraid of it.
And then another stinker.
Toast away.
Another stinker is Race Through New York, starring Jimmy
I've
Fallon.
never done it, but it doesn't seem like anyone raves about it.
People think it's terrible. Again. And then, this is interesting, that they would, they don't swap out certain things that are getting older at this point, but Shrek 4D is still at Universal Studios Florida.
Some people love Shrek.
And Shrek is a big anti-Disney type of jabbing fest. I get it. The show is cute. I have seen it. It's fun. Well, I mean, if we go, with Harrison, that's one thing we should do because it's one of the things he could do.
Wow.
So
how exciting. The Shrek show.
Shrek 4D.
Can't wait to take him.
Yes. Right. So that's another one. But the great thing about Shrek 4D is that's where Halloween 4
I remember.
was.
Oh, I knew exactly when you said the
I know. I knew you were thinking that Halloween Horror Nights.
Did you see the speculation map that they're going to do Halloween 3, which is really disappointing because that's not even
Season
Halloween.
of the Witch?
Yeah.
We have that.
Hashtag who cares?
We should watch it. I've never seen it.
I have. I've only seen half of it because I didn't
really
like
stupid.
it. I know some people, it has a cult following. People really like it. But to me,
So they are
it's
doing
not-
Halloween 3?
well, it's speculation. But I hope not. I think it's speculation actually for California.
Oh,
But
okay.
people
I was
are
going to say,
hoping-
how do you not have Halloween, Mike Myers Halloween?
I don't know.
It's kinda
Some
weird.
people love Halloween 3. I don't know those people. They're not my people. But, there are people that like it.
We're going to have to do a special Halloween movie ranking.
Yeah,
episode.
I would
Maybe
love
a Bagcab
that.
exclusive, right? Or an exclusive. All right, so then we have
Non-exclusive?
Universal Studios Florida, The Simpsons ride. I've been on it. It makes me ill. I don't get ill on many simulators, to be honest, you guys, but this one totally makes me sick.
Okay. I've never been on this one either. Okay, now that you're naming the rides, I feel like there's a lot more there than it looks like. Because I feel like when we're walking around in there, it's like nothing's around.
Well, no, you're not wrong. Now that
usually I'm not.
Now that Bourne is back on that Hollywood Boulevard or whatever, or Rodeo or whatever.
Born.
There's a Bourne stunt show now. Jason Bourne.
Okay.
Where T2 3D was. But for a long time, Ash, that whole stretch that you're talking about is empty. Empty. There's nothing going on that street. All right, so do you have Transformers The Ride? 3D.
I feel like, I feel like it's good.
It's good.
It's been a really long time, but it's kind of like a derivative of Spider-Man.
Yet again, this is a Paramount-owned property. Paramount. CBS. Not Universal Studios. And basically, it is Spider-Man ride system almost exactly.
And I don't mind that.
With put-in
It's the only other
Transformers.
one where they really do that, right? That it's kind of like Spider-Man.
I like it.
Now, to be
I
honest,
like
though,
it.
I mean, what we haven't been talking about has been going through the list is which one of these are Ride the Movies. Because the Jimmy Fallon one is not
No.
Ride the Movies. A lot of them, the
Simpsons
ones you
is
named,
not. I
No.
mean, there was a Simpsons movie, but come on.
that doesn't count.
It was a, you're right. Not a lot of Ride the Movies, I guess. Well, I mean, like Rip Ride Rocket, no.
It's not Ride the Movies.
No.
The other ones are,
So
I guess.
the other ones are tied to films, yes. But not the way it used to be. And then you have Woody Woodpecker's Nuthouse Coaster, which is still there, and there's a Curious George play area.
I love Curious George.
So so that's really, that's all that, I mean, that's really it. And a lot of those are things that there's, besides The Mummy, Ash, that's the only one that excites us.
Well, and Diagon Alley.
Diagon Alley itself is exciting.
area.
Yes,
Yeah.
the area itself. So that's our overview of what you could find.
I wish everyone could have just seen.
Okay, overview of what you can find at Universal Studios Florida. Now, you have to also realize, and again, I'm going to say this again, really, Universal Studios Florida is the home of Halloween Horror Nights, and for most people, that is okay. That is
I'm
why
kind of okay with it.
that is why people love Universal Studios Florida. I love Universal Studios Florida, but I love the original 90s version of Universal Studios Florida way more than I love the what they have now. Okay?
Right.
So, it'll be interesting to see your thoughts. We're going to go, obviously, more in depth into each section of the park and give our in-depth reviews of things as we go further on the Magic in the Midwest podcast. Anything else to add, Ash? No.
No.
Okay. All right. So, from the Midwest, everyone. See you later.